In university and college, your lecturers will talk about the importance of good programming and good design practices. And while this is all well and good in theory, in the real world, there are times when you're going to throw all of this out the window to get a product shipped. And this is where just doing a hack solution comes into play. While it's not the best solution, if it's what will get your product shipped, that's what you're going to have to do. So let's discuss. Good morning everyone and welcome back to the channel. That intro clip took me way too long to record, I don't know why. So the reason I brought up basically hacking your code to get it to work is I was thinking about my last React job where I was doing front-end development for a company to build basically a front-end for a farming support tool that would display agricultural data to the farmers. When I got to the end of that project and we were basically down to our last few dollars, I think I had like maybe 3 hours left, we still needed to get the WebSockets implemented. And I had never worked on WebSockets before, so this was completely new to me. Everything in this project was new to me. And I had just managed to get WebSockets working right at the end, sort of with a hack. There was a better solution where I was going to be using some middleware to get some stuff done, but I managed to implement a way to get Redux and the WebSocket to interact. Whenever a request comes in, it's going to go through this massive handler function, which will work out where stuff's supposed to go, but it's not great. So if I get brought back on for this project, there's going to be a bit of work left to do for that. And pretty much throughout this entire project, I was doing hack solutions pretty much everywhere. So there was a problem with the navbar where it wasn't updating to a clicked on style when I just ended up doing a hack solution which forced a re-render, which was, it's not a great solution. I ended up basically every time you click the button, it would flip a Boolean value that was stored in the component and that would force a re-render. Once again, not a good idea, but at the time, I didn't really have a better solution, and I didn't want to stick on that component for weeks and weeks, and it probably would have been days. It wasn't that complicated. When I have other things to be doing, I definitely want to get it done as quickly as possible because I was the only front-end web developer on that, and pretty much if I didn't get my work done, then the project didn't get done. So I'm sure they would much appreciate having a working project that's not up to the best programming standards, as opposed to a incomplete project that was absolutely perfect in regards to that. Because you have to remember this, the consumer of the product, the person that you're selling it to, they don't care about your programming practices unless you're intentionally designing a tool where that's part of the selling point. Like, say you're Suckless, for example, making ST and things like that, where how many lines of code and how well written it is are all part of the selling point. Then sure, it makes sense to be using good design practices and all this other stuff. But when you're building a website, for example, or you're building a simple desktop application, or even a really complex desktop application, what the consumer is going to say is, this is a cool looking color. I like the shape of this button. They're not going to say, oh, this is a really good use of the model view controller pattern. Oh, this is a good use of a delegate. They don't care about that stuff. They're not even going to see it for the most part. What they care about is the stuff that they can see, what they can actually interact with. And whatever's behind that is inconsequential to them as long as it doesn't get in their way. Once it starts getting in their way, then it's a problem. And this is why having a hack of a solution that works is better than having a missing feature. Because if you have a button on your interface and it brings up a dialog saying, this feature is unavailable right now, that's going to cause a lot of annoyance in your consumer. But if you click on that button, it does what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't do it in the best way. Say you want to do sorting, for example, of a table, and your sorting algorithm isn't the most efficient, so it takes a couple of seconds longer than it would have. That's better than clicking on the sorting button and the sorting button doing nothing. So this doesn't mean that there's no room for good programming practices. So most of the money that's spent on a piece of software is spent during the modifiability stage after it's been released. And if you can ease that job, then it's definitely a good idea. But as I've said, you don't want to release an unfinished product. Sure, that's a common thing that's happening nowadays, but as a consumer and as someone who makes use of software, obviously, it is really annoying when you get a piece of software and one of the key features is just missing from it. A good example of this is when you're playing a game, for example, and there's, say, a massive game-breaking bug on day one, and they're like, oh, we'll just release a day one patch for it. It's probably a better idea to make sure that bug isn't there to begin with. Maybe just get rid of it with a hack solution, and then afterwards you can patch it with a better solution that's more efficient. This is one of the great advantages of having the internet. You can patch software after it's been released, but I think that a lot of companies are using this as a crutch to just release unfinished software. and then afterwards then patch it, rather than spending an extra couple of days or an extra week or so and actually getting it done. I know that there's a lot of business pressure actually to get software released at a specific time, but I think that a lot of the time this is used as an excuse just to get software out as quick as possible and then worry about the consequences and the costs of actually fixing it later. So I think that's pretty much everything for me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're a developer and you have had to just do some massive hack fix in the last minute to get something released, let me know. If you're, say, in university and you're experiencing your lecturers just telling you, hey, you need to get everything done perfectly, good software is the key to everything. Tell me about that as well. And if you're a consumer who hates when games are released and they're completely broken on day one, and then they release a day one patch to fix it, let me know that as well. So if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon below if you want to see more from my channel. I've got a Twitter account where I post updates about my YouTube channel and various other programming related things. I don't tend to tweet much, but there's stuff on there if you want to check it out. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for me, so I'm out.